Let's roll, baby. Welcome into the Week 3 edition of Ringer Wise Guys right here for our friends on FanDuel TV. What a show it's going to be. You got Cousin Sal, you got Joe House, you got Raheem Palmer as we get you set for all the action across the board in the NFL. And Sal, I know that you spent some time in Eugene, Oregon. So as far as what was the higher total, the waterworks from the Iacono family sending your son off to college, or the amount of points the Ducks put up on the scoreboard and running it up on Dion and company?
Wow, that's a good prop. Well, the waterworks continue as, yes, we dropped my son off at Oregon. He got to see the thrashing yesterday at Autzen Stadium. We came home, the wife and I, we watched the game on TV, and every time they cut away to the student section, just bawling tears. So that was a fun one to watch, I have to say, JJ. But yes, it goes on and on and on.
Well, I'm sure it was fun. And listen, it was fun for me because I laid the lumber with Oregon.
Yeah.
Easiest bet on the board Saturday at college football. Joe House, is it weird living in a world where your Commanders are 2-0 starting off an NFL season? I'm not used to this.
It's a wonderful world. It's a brand new world. I don't know if it's going to continue. Speaking of waterworks, JJ, we were kind of counting on Tropical Storm Ophelia bringing some, confusion to the situation. I need some Mother Nature power to slow down that Buffalo Bills offense here. But it's going to be a fascinating matchup. The C-Words defensive line leads the league in sacks, and Buffalo gives up sacks. So, hope springs eternal down here in Washington, JJ.
Well, I like the sound of that. I look forward to the Joe House weather update, which maybe is coming up later on in the show. So, Dream, normally when you get to week 3, there are a whole lot of 0-2 teams that are feeling the heat, that are feeling that desperation. You think when we look ahead to the rest of the show, getting on board with those 0-2 teams the right thing to do?
Yeah, it's definitely the right thing to do. When you look at teams that start 0-2, they're just 23-23 straight up. However, they are 33-13 against the spread. That's 71% against 1-1 teams since week 3, since 2010. There's 5 of those games this week. So you definitely want to jump on those 0-2 teams against those 1-1 teams. Now there's 4 0-2 teams taking on 2-0 teams. You want to reserve some restraint there when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals or the Chicago Bears, because they're 2 really bad teams.
Listen, you're talking about the Arizona Cardinals and you're talking about the Chicago Bears. Hide the women and children. We have a loaded show, fellas. Loaded show across the board here on Ringer Wise Guys. We are going to wisen up. We're going to sniff out some rat lines, and that's all too important. We got Kevin O'Connor and Danny Heifetz giving us some guest picks. We'll see if our guests can actually steer us in the right direction. And then, of course, man's best bet. What kind of size of dogs are we going to be looking for on these particular underdogs? And then you can't forget about teasers, props, and so much more. But now, guys, it's time to wisen up. All right, let's wisen up. The boys have been hot to start off the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. Sal, week 3, the floor is yours. Take it away, sir. How are we wisening up?
Well, I'm wisening up. I'm going to depress you too, because I am 2-0. And here's what I'm doing, JJ. Your Dolphins are in a screwy situation here. This is what they call a sandwich game, right? And the Dolphins, the meat in the middle is rotten, okay? So the Dolphins last week, tough physical matchup against the Patriots. Next week, looking ahead to their battle at Buffalo. And now they have Denver. Everybody's left Denver for dead, and the line is only 6. As bad as Denver's been, as good as Miami's been, this line is only 6. This is a rotten game for the Dolphins. They don't need to win this by 7 or 10 or 14. They're going to win this by a field goal or maybe even lose. And don't forget, this could be it for Russell Wilson. There's going to be a short leash on Russell Wilson as far as Coach Sean Payton is concerned. He's got Jarrett Stidham waiting in the wings. And let me tell you something about Russell Wilson. In weeks 3 and 4, he is 15-7 against the spread. That's the 3rd best in the last 2 decades. So be careful here. Don't even be careful. Take Denver plus the 6 points, JJ. That's my wisen up best bet.
I hate that I agree with you on this particular pick, but the sandwich spot is an excellent point, Sal. New England in week 2 on the road. Buffalo, the team that knocked out the Miami Dolphins last year. I'm sure that's a game they've had circled on their calendar for quite a while. And let's not forget, Jalen Waddle, who is one of the most dynamic speedsters in the NFL, alongside Tyreek Hill, not playing in this game. They're getting him right for Buffalo next week. So I'm with you. Sadly, I think there's value on Denver getting those 6 points. All right, Raheem, your turn.
I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers under 43.5, as well as the first half under 21.5. You look at these two teams, they played last year, 13-10 final score. So a final score of 43 or 44 feels a little high for a Steelers-Raiders game. You look at the Steelers, they're really struggling offensively. Just 8 offensive points scored per game and a league low 19.6 yards per drive. Kenny Pickett is really struggling, and you can't trust Matt Canada to put together a solid offense. You look at the Steelers, they're dead last in offensive EPA per play and 31st in success rate. Well, the Raiders aren't that much better offensively themselves. They only put up 17 points against this Denver Broncos team, which allowed 33 points to Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders. And both of these teams struggle on early downs. Steelers, 29th in early down success rate. Raiders, 28th in early down success rate. I think this is a slow-paced game, not a lot of scores. And you look at the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo struggles with pressure, I think it's not going to be a lot of points. First half under 21.5 and under 43 full game.
Funky. Raheem getting funky with the Week 3 Wise Rager. And full disclosure, I have some thoughts on that Sunday Night Football game that might be coming up a little bit later on in the show. But when it comes to getting funky, that's where I expect Joe House to come into the proceedings. So we'll see, Mr. House, if you were getting funky for your Wise Wager.
I don't feel like this is going to strike the gambling public as very funky. We're going to go kind of right down the middle. I'm afraid that we're not going to have this opportunity many more times this season or perhaps any future NFL seasons. I don't know if it's going to be week 4. I don't know if it's going to be week 5. I'm talking about a team going up against Zach Wilson as a starting quarterback and laying less than 3 points. I am taking the New England Patriots minus 2.5 at the New York Jets this week. Of course, we know all about the Patriots' dominance of the Jets, the 14 straight. And we also know all about the fact that New England takes care of business against bad quarterbacks like Zach Wilson. 7 picks by Zach Wilson in 4 games. But more generally, when the Patriots play bad quarterbacks over the last couple of years, they're 14-1 straight up, 11-4 against the spread. And the thing that has everybody in Jets Nation, especially concerned, of course, is the fact that the Jets can't muster any kind of sustainable offense. And, you know, their rushing game, other than explosive plays, is non-existent. This is just yet another in the string of New England beatdowns. New England is especially desperate. They have to win this game if they have any chance or hope whatsoever of making the playoffs this year. The defense is very good. Sorry to Jets Nation. It's New England minus 2.5.
For what it's worth, the last time the Jets beat the New England Patriots, December of 2015, a bearded quarterback by the name of Ryan Fitzpatrick finding Eric Decker in the end zone. That is the last time the Jets won a game against Belichick and company. We'll see if that streak continues later on this afternoon. All right, guys, for my best bet, we're wisening up with the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to lay the 1.5 against the New Orleans Saints. We all watched Monday Night Football. New Orleans coming off a short week, gave up that backdoor cover, a backdoor push for the Carolina Panthers. Now you're taking Mr. Carr and you're putting him on the road. You're taking the Saints, who are a terrific home team, second straight week on the road, and now the Green Bay Packers getting their first taste of Lambeau magic, getting their first taste of Lambeau Field. They won week 1 at Chicago. They lose a hard-fought, close game against the Atlanta Falcons last week. I think that Lambeau faithful is ready to give Jordan Love a nice coming-out party. So to me, New Orleans, not as good as their record. I'm not buying the New Orleans Saints quite yet. Let me go see New Orleans win on the road, win in a hostile environment. I'm taking, to me, the team that I just have more confidence in. I think Green Bay will have a better record when it's all said and done. I'm sick and tired of this New Orleans side. I'm sick and tired of hearing about Carr, who stunk the other night, and Dennis Allen. I still got my Atlanta Falcons futures for what it's worth. I am on the Green Bay Packers, fellas, laying 1.5. Sal, you're not happy. I can tell you're not happy, but you're going to be wrong.
Well, I'm a Saints guy because I picked them to win the South, but I'm weird because I don't like them when they're laying points. So this would be a nice spot for me if I like the Saints. So, 1.5. I don't know. I feel like you would give Green Bay a little more of a nod if they were that much better than the Saints. But yeah, JJ, you do what you want. I'm 2-0 with these best bets. So I don't know if we have to agree on anything or we just we go on our own separate ways here.
See, I think the thing about this game is the Packers have major injuries that you have to worry about. David Bakhtiari is out. Elton Jenkins is out. Right now, as of 11:10 Eastern Standard Time, we still don't know if Aaron Jones is going to play. We still don't know if Christian Watson is going to play. The Packers are in a really bad spot injury-wise, so I just don't agree with laying the point here with the Packers. Also, they struggle on early downs, and that tends to be a thing that hurts you long term. So I would lean towards the Saints here, even though we like the Packers earlier in the week. I just think losing those two offensive linemen puts them in a bad spot.
Well, I'm not getting an endorsement from Sal. I'm not getting an endorsement from Raheem. Sal, by the way, you mentioned that 2-0 Wisen Up record. Well, you got company, pal. I'm right there with you with that 2-0 Wisen
I
Up
only
record.
pay attention to me. That's okay.
I understand that. You're a me first guy. I thought you were a team player. I thought you were kind of rooting for all the guys. Now, this week, I get to root against Sal's bet because he's picking against my team, and Sal clearly rooting against my bet with those New Orleans futures. All right, Danny Heifetz, our buddy, our pal from The Ringer, he's got a guest pick. The guests have been cold. Can we get them hot? Danny, the floor is yours.
Hey, Ringer Wise guys, this is Danny Heifetz here. I got something I'd like to offer up to the family. Chiefs giving 12.5 to the Bears. Cowboys giving 12.5 to the Cardinals. They are on their hands and knees begging us to take this two-team teaser. Cowboys just have to win by a touchdown. Chiefs got to win by a touchdown. Tell me, are you in this with me? And if not, who are you more afraid of screwing up this two-team teaser? The Chiefs or the Cowboys? Let me know.
This seems like the sort of tease that is right up our buddy Joe House's alley. Am I right or am I wrong, House? This is your playbook.
It really is. He's speaking directly to me. I am, of course, petrified by this play now because it is so close to my heart. And the Chiefs especially is the team that I would be worried about. They haven't been great, but we're only asking for one score wins out of Dallas and the Chiefs, and it should happen, but crazy things happen in week 3, so let's be careful out there.
I understand that. Sal, listen, those two big favorites, you know it. Late window, the games are as bad as can be. Who's more vulnerable in this spot? Is it Kansas City laying the bigger number, or is it your Cowboys on the road against the 2-0 ATS Arizona Cardinals?
Listen, if I have to answer that question, I guess the Cowboys, but the real answer is neither. He's done it. Danny Two Sheets has done it. He has broken the curse of the guest pick right there. He simplified the board. He's taken 6 points off the spread. And now, as you see, the Cowboys and the Chiefs only need to win by a touchdown. By the way, their defenses will each score a touchdown probably in this game. So that'll be that. So they'll start off even from there. And I love this because if they're up 14 late, you don't have to worry about a backdoor cover because another touchdown just cuts it to 7. Nice job. You sliced the garlic really, really thin on this one, Danny. Good job by you.
Wow, maybe, just maybe, we get a guest that comes on Ringer Wise Guys and can join the winning party. All right.
It seems impossible. Yeah.
Listen, sooner or later, it's got to happen. We can only hope that we have people come on a show and give us a winner or two for a change. That's what we want. Now, when it's smelling funky. When it's a little weird. We're looking for rats. It's time to get made. And I'm starting the proceedings, guys. There's a game Raheem hit on, and I think the line stinks. I think it's funky. I think it's the sort of game that should make you immediately go the other direction. Mike Tomlin is an underdog. The Pittsburgh Steelers are underdogs against the crummy Vegas Raiders. We all came at the start of the year talking about the idea that Vegas is not any good, that Vegas is going to have one of the worst teams in the NFL. Vegas coming off a game where they got absolutely steamrolled by the Buffalo Bills. Yet here we are, and the Vegas Raiders are laying points against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That absolutely stinks. I smell a rat. It is fishy. It is insane to me that we're sitting here in Pittsburgh. I don't care short week. I don't care how lousy their offense looked against the Cleveland Browns. They're an underdog in this game against Vegas. I'm telling you, buyer beware, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Stay away from the Pittsburgh Steelers getting points. Sal, take it away.
Well, first of all, I don't know that that's the case. I mean, the Raiders they at least have that win on the more impressive win, I think, in week 1, actually, than the Steelers, whose offense didn't do anything. It should count for something, JJ, that Kenny Pickett is the worst quarterback in the league when it comes to QBR. So, and you have a team in the Raiders who have a win at home, I would take it. And Pittsburgh traveling to Vegas, who knows what shenanigans goes on when the road team hits. But my stay away right here is Chargers-Vikings. And I don't even care what the line is. They could make this 1, they could make this 3, they could make this 7, and they could put either team favored by any of those numbers, and it wouldn't matter because they're the same team. They're going to blow it. The Chargers might blow it with a missed extra point, or maybe Staley goes for it on 4th and 8 when he should kick a field goal. This is going to be a 1-score game either way. Don't even try to figure out who's going to win. If you could tease both sides at plus 7.5, do that. I know it's unorthodox, but this is that weird a game and probably a stay away, but consider that tease that puts you in the 1+ score range for either side. Chargers, Vikings, both 0-2, one of them going home probably for good after this.
You just know that at around 4 o'clock Eastern, something nutty, something wacky, something off the wall and off the rails is going to be happening with those two particular teams that invent ways to lose. Well, guess what? On Sunday, one of them has to find a way to win. For what it's worth, I like the Vikings. All right, House, you're next.
For the 3rd straight week, wise guys, I'm on Seattle. Seattle keeps occupying this spread dead zone space of between 4 points and 5.5 points. The look-ahead number for this Seahawks game against the Carolina Panthers was Seahawks by 4, kind of their standard home total. The line jumped up to -6 because Seattle went into Detroit and looked good, and Carolina's offense continues to look completely moribund. But crazily, over the course of the week, the quarterback situation in Carolina changed. It went from Bryce Young, who was announced out late Wednesday into Thursday, and it was announced that Andy Dalton was going to be the starting quarterback, and the line stayed right where it was. It was right there at 6 or 5.5. It's now at 5, and I don't really understand it. Andy Dalton is an immensely better quarterback at this stage of the game than Bryce Young. He finished last year, let's remind everybody very quietly, with positive completion percentage over expectations. He had the same quarterback rating Andy Dalton did as the golden child, Trevor Lawrence. And this Carolina Panthers team just a year ago went into Seattle and ran all over them, ran for 223 yards and won in Seattle. So I don't understand why this spread is sitting where it is at 5 points. I think with Dalton as a decision maker, getting the offense in and out of situations, plus the ability of the Panthers to lean on the running game. And the real clincher for me is all of the injuries on the Seattle side. They have 11 starters who didn't practice or were limited on Thursday. 3/4 of their secondary is out. The Panthers are just going to try and manage their way around this. The 5 points is still crazy to me. It's a stay away.
Yeah, it's amazing how Seattle keeps working their way onto the rat line conversation again and again and again. And Raheem, before you give your rat line of the week, am I crazy to like Seattle more in this, or excuse me, to like Carolina more against Seattle in this particular spot with Andy Dalton at quarterback? Because I kind of do.
Yeah, you're not crazy at all. I mean, obviously, Andy Dalton has a little bit more experience a lot more experience than Bryce Young. And I just think Carolina, these two teams played last year, and Carolina beat them. So I think it's a good spot for Carolina.
All right, that is something I'm going to consider for my bingo card in week 3. I'm thinking about getting invested and getting involved with those Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying it. I know how bad they've looked. All right, Raheem, rat line of the week.
We're going to go with the Ravens Colts. The Ravens are laying 7.5 in the market right now. And the biggest thing is that the Ravens are really at the peak of their market value. But really, look who they've defeated thus far. They played a Texans team with a rookie quarterback on the road in his first start with his entire offensive line in the hospital. And then last week, the market actually faded them against the Bengals. Meanwhile, Joe Burrow is clearly not the same quarterback right now. And one of the biggest reasons why the market faded them last week because the Ravens are suffering a lot of injuries. Ronnie Stanley, Tyler Limbaugh on the offensive line. You look at the secondary, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Williams, they're out. They have even more injuries this week. Odell Beckham is out. So this is a banged up Ravens team getting peak market value. But then when I look on the other side of the ball, you look at the Colts. They're missing center Ryan Kelly. Gardner Minshew, if you ask me, I mean, he is solid. And I don't think he's much of a downgrade, or he could possibly be an upgrade over Anthony Richardson. I think at times the market tends to overvalue him. I don't know if you guys remember last year. There were parts of last year where people were saying that Gardner Minshew was actually an upgrade over Jalen Hurts. And we saw that wasn't the case. Anthony Richardson adds an element of being able to run the ball. We saw in week 1, Gardner Minshew got it down to the 1. 4 opportunities to score in order to cover and couldn't get it done. So I don't like either side of this game. I think there is some sharp money on the Colts now. You saw this line get pushed down to 7.5. But me personally, I want to stay away from this game.
See, I don't. I want to get involved with the Indianapolis Colts. I think when you look at Baltimore's defense, an inexperienced quarterback is not a recipe for success. You know, House, you go back to a couple of weeks ago, we saw the Texans and C.J. Stroud in a position where he had to go up against Baltimore and what they bring to the table defensively. I get your point, Raheem. I think at times Minshew mania can kind of be blown a little bit out of proportion. But, House, I think in this particular spot, in this game to cover a number, I think I like the Colts better with the experienced quarterback than I would an inexperienced quarterback in this sort of spot.
Yeah, I agree with this. And we are, kind of foretelling a particular position I'm going to take in man's best bet. I like the underdog spot for the Colts. Now, one thing that doesn't seem like it's going to come to pass is the added variable of the weather. It is very wet down here in the greater mid-Atlantic, but it doesn't seem like there are going to be winds. I do think that Baltimore can win this game just by an efficient rush attack. Next man up in terms of the running back core, plus Lamar Jackson keeping the ball on the ground and just really running the clock out. So it does put that number into question in terms of covering, over a standard touchdown.
Yeah, I think the Colts are probably a stay away every week if you're considering betting on them. And I'm pretty confident that, Anthony Richardson will be better than Gardner Minshew eventually next year, maybe even by week 7 or week 8. But right now, I think Gardner Minshew is an upgrade. And by the way, JJ, this is similar to where your Dolphins are. This is a sandwich spot for Baltimore. They had a tough game against Cincinnati last week. Next week, they go to Cleveland, right? So whenever you're sandwiched in between these physical AFC North games, and then you have the Colts, like, what do they care if they win by 3 or 7 against the Colts? And look for that backdoor too. But Raheem's probably right that it's a stay away in general.
Couple of sandwich spots, and you're seeing a whole lot of short money come in on Sal's Wising Up pick of the week, the Denver Broncos. You're also seeing a lot of short money come in on Raheem's rat line of the week, the Indianapolis Colts. When we come back on Ringer Wise Guys, we'll have man's best bet, and we'll also get SGPs from the guys. We're in the lab, we're cooking, all that more coming up on FanDuel TV. FanDuel TV, and we are going to have two outstanding shows as the boys split up over the course of the week. You will have Joe House, Raheem Palmer, and yours truly on East Coast Bias. You want to check that out Thursday mornings on FanDuel TV. And then our buddy Cousin Sal with Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend Friday on FanDuel TV. So the boys split up throughout the course of the week, but we get in the lab, we give you winners, and then we reunite for Ringer Wise Guys each and every Sunday. All right, let's see if we can make it another winner with a guest pick. I mean, listen, these guys are due. They're beyond due. They think they know football. This guy apparently thinks he knows football. Kevin O'Connor, I thought he was a basketball guy. Well, anyway, he's in. He's got a pick for us. Let's hear it.
What's up, Ringer Wise Guys? I have a pick for this NFL weekend, and I'm going with the Patriots to cover the spread against the Jets, get their first win of the season. Because on the Jets side, let's be serious. Zach Wilson over Aaron Rodgers, 0-4 in his career against the Patriots, 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, with 11 sacks. Belichick knows how to baffle Zach Wilson. He's no good. The Patriots are going to get their first win on the road against the Jets. I think this one's a lock. What do you guys think?
You know, Sal, we got a lot of Boston folk who work at the Ringer. We love KOC, but my goodness, they all just pick the Patriots blindly? I mean, it's all they do.
It does. Yeah, it does seem too easy, right? You mentioned it's been like 37 years since the Jets have beaten the Patriots, and better Jet teams than we've seen probably. And Belichick isn't going to get embarrassed and all the things we talked about. But honestly, isn't this going to be a 10-7 game, a 13-10 game, 14-11? I don't want to be on either side of this. And I think it's going to be a last second kind of weird screw job anyway. So I don't know. I like the first guest pick better than the second one. I'm sorry. But by the way, speaking of Boston guys, annoying Boston guys, Simmons loves texting us during the show. Should we stop down for a few minutes and respond to his text? He throws all these picks at us, and we're expected to say whether we like him. I'm like, yes, boss, this is good. This is going to win. I'm going to stop.
You would think that you would want your boss and the founder and the creator of the Ringer and Ringer Wise Guys, Raheem, to allow the cooks in the kitchen to cook. Raheem, you like to cook in the kitchen. I like to cook in the kitchen. Right now, I feel like my meal is being disturbed.
Well, I mean, look, let's just read his pick out on air. He put a 3-team parlay with the Washington Commanders plus 200, the Indianapolis Colts money line plus 310, and the Pittsburgh Steelers money line plus 130. That pays 27-1. So $100 gets you back about 2,700. That's what he was texting us thus far. You tell us if you like it. You write that on Twitter. You write that on X. You go disturb Bill Simmons like he's disturbing us right now.
JJ, that's called the I hate money parlay. That's just taking money and putting it, in the shredder and then lighting the shredder on fire. That there's no scenario under which both the Colts in Baltimore and the C-words here hosting Buffalo hold up their ends of that bargain. But I do want to commend Kevin O'Connor on his fine New England pick. Sal mentioned it. The lowest total on the board, 36.5 points. I can't even come up with a scenario where these two teams combine for 20 points. But look, here's the problem with anybody that wants to back the Jets. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm taking my money, my hard-earned money that I didn't bet on Simmons parlay, and instead putting it on Zach Wilson. Best of luck with that.
Just for context with Zach Wilson against Bill Belichick, this guy is 54 of 106 for 693 yards with 7 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, and 9 sacks. He's lost 4 of those games against Belichick, 25-6, 54-13, 22-17, and 10-3. To Sal's point, the last time these two teams played, you got a walk-off punt return from the New England Patriots. Right. I do think the Jets have some value in this game. When I look at my model makes this game a pick 'em. However, Zach Wilson is the great equalizer for the New England Patriots. So I would lean towards the Patriots. I don't necessarily hate fading Zach Wilson. That's where I would go with this, but I'm not going to have anything on this at all.
By the way,
fellas.
but real quick, but my model says that Simmons is a lunatic and all you guys are lunatics for backing the Steelers. Enough with the Steelers, love. They were so lucky to win last week. They were god-awful in week 1 against the 49ers. And then last Monday night, with Chubb going up, first of all, they get a gift with a pick 6 right off the bat, and then another gift with Chubb unfortunately going down. And they were still 22-9 first downs in favor of the Browns, still outgained up by 150 yards. Enough. They're doing this in spite of Matt Canada. And please stop putting the Steelers on teasers and parlays and everything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why it's my rat line of the week. I guess you missed that segment, Mr. Sal.
No, I did. I thought the Raiders should be favored. I thought that makes sense. But it's Simmons. Enough. Stop bothering us with this nonsense.
We love you, Bill. The parlay's a big fat loser. All right, let's take a look. Who's in, who's out week 3? A couple of big injury updates. We talked about Jalen Waddle not going to play for the Miami Dolphins. Austin Eckler out for the second straight week for the Los Angeles Chargers. And then DK Metcalf going to give it a go. Big for the Seahawks in their passing game. Isaiah Pacheco, who was a big breakout star for the Kansas City Chiefs in the postseason. We'll see if he can make an impact against those lowly Chicago Bears. All right, boys. Now it's time for man's best bet. Who's excited? This is where we find our underdog of the week. We pick the size of the underdog, and we go from there. So, Sal, what kind of dog and what kind of game are we looking at, amigo?
We're looking at just a plain old boxer, right? Boisterous, playful, and energetic, and that's Baker Mayfield. That's more Baker Mayfield commercial. Look at that. It kind of looks a little like Baker, but no more commercials for Baker. He's focused on getting this team going. Look, there's always a weird team, right, that ends up like 3-0 or 2-1, and it's usually from the NFC South. A couple of years ago, Sam Darnold led the league in rushing touchdowns. Remember that? They were 3-0. There's always a squad that has a Fitzmagical year, if you will, and I think that's Tampa Bay, and I think they have one more week in them at home. Now, would I like this game if I was back in Tampa Bay? Would I like it more played Sunday, 1 p.m.? Yes, of course. Make Philly go to the 100-degree heat and see what happens. But it's going to be a night game, and I think Baker takes control, no turnovers through 2 weeks, and now facing an Eagles team that's allowed both opposing passers, 300-plus yards. Eagles have about 6 key defenders, either questionable or out. And Jalen Hurts, you may say, well, they only played like last Thursday. They're going to be rested. Jalen Hurts 0-1 on 10-plus days rest. You'll have to wait till Monday to cash this, but I like Tampa as my upset. What am I getting here? What I forgot what my number is even. Plus 194? Go, take it and run.
I love it, Sal. And I actually like the fact that it's a Monday night game. I get your point about 1 p.m. in the weather, but I like the idea that everyone and their mother is going to throw Philadelphia in the teases and parlays and think that they're going to be cashing a winner at around 10 o'clock Eastern time. Not so fast, my friends. I will be riding with our buddy on Tampa Bay plus the points and maybe a little sprinkle on the money line. All right, Raheem, time for your man's best bet.
I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons money line plus 142. You can find that right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. You look at this Lions team, and typically this might be a spot where you buy on the Lions because they took that game against Seattle to overtime despite 5 turnovers. However, the injury bug has really hit this team hard to the point where they just might as well just build a hospital. You got your left tackle, Taylor Decker, out. You got your right guard out. Both of those guys are really going to impact their offensive line because this Falcons team can really rush the passer. Then you look at their secondary. Emmanuel Mosley is out. C.J. Garner-Johnson, Kirby Joseph ruled out. Then you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. He has a toe injury. Running back David Montgomery, he's doubtful with a bruised thigh. So they have injuries all over. And the biggest thing is that this Lions team, they're mediocre at stopping the run, and they really struggle to stop the pass. 24th in dropback EPA, 26th in dropback success rate. I know people don't like Desmond Ridder, but I think he's going to have the best game of his season, best game of his career probably. He's going to be able to get the ball to Kyle Pitts and Drake London. I really have a ton of respect for Arthur Smith because he knows how to put Desmond Ridder in the best positions. You got Tyler Algie, you got Bijan Robinson. I think they're going to run all over this Lions team control the ball. And I think they win this game outright.
I'm going the other way here. I'm out on this. I love you, Raheem, and I understand the points you're making about Atlanta. They can run the football effectively. A lot of sharp money coming in on the Falcons. There's no denying that. This line opened at around 5.5. Now you're seeing it close to 3 at kickoff as we move closer to 1 o'clock, and you can check that out on FanDuel. I just think it's a good buy low opportunity for Detroit. So for me, I'm looking at Detroit back at home. I don't think they're going to lose 2 home games in a row. And let's see Desmond Ridder on the road go and perform at a high level. We've seen Desmond Ridder do just enough against Carolina in week 1. We saw him play really well. Give him credit against Green Bay in week 2. I would go the other way on this one. Now, I know you guys are going the other way because there's been nothing but Patriot love in this show. But for my man's best bet, I'm going to the hometown boys. I know I can't believe I'm about to do it. I'm putting my money on that English Bulldog. I'm putting my money on Zach Wilson to end the drought for the New York Jets against the New England Patriots. I understand the Jets and their offense with this quarterback is beyond inept. But to me, the Jets have the best individual unit in the game. Their defense, for my money, is better than the New England Patriots defense. I think you're going to see the Jet defense that got humbled and whooped by Raheem and Sal's Dallas Cowboys come through in a big way, and you're seeing nothing but New England Patriot money. That's all it is. Patriot money, Patriot money, Patriot money. I am taking a Jets, Jets, and I promise you this might be the last time I ever put my money on Zach Wilson ever again. My man's best bet is going to be a winner. House, I'm going to win this one. I know you're not going to like it, but I'm going to win it.
It's fine, JJ. You have a show in New York. You have to get on with all those lunatics and talk through, try and make some content out of this, absolutely deplorable Jets quarterback situation. Best of luck to you. You'll have content either way. You could tell everybody how committed you were to the cause. Speaking of committed to the cause, my best bet this week, we were doing a Reservoir Dogs theme because we had a tropical storm come through here in the mid-Atlantic and drop 3 inches of rain. And we pulled together, a couple of teams in this mid-Atlantic space where there were going to be, there's supposed to be wind and rain and all kinds of stuff. Tropical storm Ophelia. Now, incidentally, Ophelia, a character in Hamlet who ends up drowning herself after going mad. That's probably where you'll end up if you do this combination, this parlay, this underdog parlay. I'm talking about parlaying the C words, getting 6.5 points at home against the Buffalo Bills, putting that alongside the Colts. I think the line's down to 7.5 now. I had it at 8. That combination was paying around plus 249. My betting buddies, let me tell you, play that at only a half unit and then give yourself a hedge. Everybody on this show is going to yell at me for hedging out of my underdog spot. I don't care. Go ahead and hedge with the tease. You can tease the Bills down to a half point. You can tease the Ravens down to 2 points or a point and a half. Well, look, the weather forecast didn't come out. It's crazy Ophelia. She went and drowned herself. We had all the rain, but it's just going to be wet here in Washington and wet in Baltimore. I knew you were going to yell at me, Sal. Now, there are reasonable bases for playing the dogs here. You guys made a decent case for why you might lean into the Colts a little bit. And I think the Ravens are going to handle their business quite easy. It is a sandwich game. They don't need to go out. They have injuries. They want to get healthy. Just run. And for the C words, that defensive front is formidable. And if they can get to Josh Allen, maybe he's the return to the turnover machine. But guys, play a half unit on the underdog parlay and a full unit on the tees and just collect plus money. It's a plus money proposition, Sal. Why do you hate it? How can you hate that?
I'm hating because on next week's show, I'm going to need the producers to put a cat for House's dog because this is not a dog. This is a cat. Like, this is just
what do you want me to do?
Like, come on, dog. You can't come out here and hedge your dog. If I can't take a plus 110 dog, then you can't hedge a dog. This is cat right here.
Can I just
I
say,
accept
yeah,
that.
wait a minute. Raheem, this segment is called Man's Best Friend. And Raheem is a man because he took a plus 138 or plus 142, whatever it ends up being in that underdog. Good job by him. He's out of the whole Terry Bradshaw, Jimmy Johnson world where they pick plus 102 underdogs and try to make themselves stars. House, what you're doing, I don't understand. Half unit here, full unit here. It took our director, Jack, 14 hours to tally up what our year-to-date total is for these underdogs. And now he has to deal with half and full units. Shame on you. Shame on you.
No, look, I just want everybody to make money. It's not my fault that the weather didn't come true. There's no wind. It's not, they can go out and throw the ball as much as they want. Josh Allen wants to throw for 300 yards against this Washington defense. Go for it. And the same is true for Lamar. So look, all I'm about is trying to give all our friends out there some plus money. I understand the criticism and I accept it.
Fellas, I did not thrive in my math classes at Syracuse University. I feel like I need a refresher and a revisit after what we just went through with half units and full units and quad units and whatever the hell House just said as far as our man's best bet. But anyway, buddy, I love you and best of luck to you. All right, we're going to have a FanDuel same game parlay, something that you want to check out on FanDuel. You see it right there. It's got a little hybrid combo of Jets Patriots. You know I'm not endorsing the Patriots laying 2.5, but Sal, there are a couple in there that I really like. Be that as it may, check that out, FanDuel.com. Now, it's your time to shine because you got a same game parlay for us. What do we got?
I love what FanDuel's doing with this. Lions plus 3.5, Goff to have 2 or more touchdown passes, and Amon St. Brown, albeit he has a toe injury. I get it. I think he thrives better than you did in those math classes, JJ. 90 plus receiving yards. It's normally plus 379. It's being boosted to, look at that. It's over 5-1 odds right here. Goff's going to have a big game. I feel like the Lions are being disrespected. Maybe this is a stay away game, but if you have the Lions plus 3.5, you could deal with the stupid field goal loss at the end. Goff, 3 and a hook. Goes off a little, 3 touchdowns last week. St. Brown, 100-plus yards last week. 4 games like that last year. They're back on track. We're getting this boosted to 585, I believe. Go cash on the big cats. That's my same game parlay.
I love that one. Jared Goff has been terrific at home. I think the only key to that one, Sal, is keeping Ahmad St. Brown on the field for 4 quarters. If they can do that, he's getting to 90 yards. And you know my feelings on Detroit and Atlanta. All right, House. I hope I don't need the calculator for this one. What are we looking at for an SGP?
I don't think you guys are going to yell at me for this one. This is a right down the middle. We're just investing heavily in the Cleveland Browns defense, the best defense in the entire NFL by all measurable metrics. They are facing a Tennessee Titans offense that is a one-trick pony with one-trick Ryan Tannehill, who will have no tricks whatsoever. The Browns defense has the number 1 lowest success rate allowed, held both the Bengals and the Steelers to a success rate of below 27%. They only had their 1 blown coverage away from holding both of the offenses that they faced under 200 yards. In both of the games that the Browns played, neither team made it to the red zone. So I'm just going against this Titans offense. It's the Browns on the money line. It's the Titans team total under 17.5 points. And then a little added wrinkle. I know that Cleveland's fortunes this season depend on Deshaun Watson eventually becoming a competent quarterback. I don't think that he necessarily will be that guy this week. The Titans secondary is bad, and the total yardage is 227.5 yards for Deshaun Watson in the air. I don't think the Browns are necessarily going to need that. It is a spot where Watson will want to try and get healthy, and I think the Browns will try and scheme that up. But I think that the opportunity will come by way of undercover kind of stuff, and I think this ferocious Browns defense is going to help keep the short field intact for the Browns offense. And so under 227.5, Browns money line, Titans team total under 17.5, pays plus 250. That's the SGP per house.
Yeah, I like unders in that game. That game has gross written all over it. And Mike Vrabel, tremendous ATS as an underdog. I like what you did there, House. You didn't fool around with the spread. You're just taking the Cleveland Browns to go and win the game. All right, guys, for my SGP, It's near and dear to my heart. We're going with my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins, in their game coming up against the Denver Broncos. Now, I'm not going against Sal's pick here. I just need the Dolphins to go and win the game outright. So we're going to do that. We're going to take Russell Wilson, who I think is going to be dealing with that Vic Fangio defense, and Bradley Chubb, the former Denver Bronco, over rushing yards, 14.5. I think you see Russ have a long and lengthy scamper or two. So I like the sound of that. And then the last thing I'm going to do, we're going to get a little nuts here. Braxton Berrios, who's Mr. Miami, went to the University of Miami, Miami guy through and through. He's playing his first game as a Dolphin at Hard Rock Stadium. He's going to have a nice cheering section. The TikToker, his gal, Alex Earl, is going to be there in all the vintage throwback Miami Dolphins attire. I am in on this. No Jalen Waddle in this particular game, too. So more looks and more touches for a guy by the name of Berrios. So we're going to go Dolphins to win. Russ over 14.5 rushing yards. Braxton Berrios to score a touchdown. Juicy is that. Right around 7-1 for that bad boy. That is my SGP for Dolphins and Broncos. And Raheem, you're going with a Dolphins-Broncos SGP with a different twist. Let's hear it.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to go with the Broncos plus 7.5. You can buy that up. I would recommend, if you're going to do a same-game parlay, I'd recommend buying the points to get the key numbers. I typically don't like to buy points, but for the sake of this parlay, let's cross that off, those key numbers of 7. So let's get the Broncos plus 7.5. A lot of people are going to look at this and say, why are you taking the Broncos? Well, the Broncos, they are 0-2. We talked at length about those 0-2 teams and how this is a desperation spot for them. And then the one thing I want to say about this Broncos offense is that they actually lead the NFL in points per possession. So I expect them to be able to go out there and score and try to keep up with this Dolphins offense, which has been very explosive with Tyreek Hill and Tua. So if the Broncos are going to win this game or have a chance of winning this game, they're going to have to throw early and often. So I do like this game to go over 47.5. And of course, in order for that to get there, Russell Wilson has to throw the ball. Let's go over 227 passing yards. I think Russell Wilson gets there with ease. So that pays about 3-1, a little bit over than that.
Guys, I always love when we have a little late breaking news that's going to shift, that's going to move a line. And one of my lines did not move for the better. And we talked about that Green Bay-New Orleans game and how confident I was, Sal, in the Green Bay Packers. Raheem pointed this out. Offensive line, Bakhtiari out. Aaron Jones out. Christian Watson going to be out for the third straight week. And I think it's a little significant for this line to go 1.5, which it's basically been all week. And these injury concerns have been out there all week. And now, close to kickoff, you got the New Orleans Saints favored by 1.5. I think that's an overreaction.
I don't think so at all. How many guys you need to be listed out? A key
but you
offensive
knew they were going to be out.
running back.
But you knew that, though. There was a good chance Christian Watson, who missed the first 2 weeks, wasn't going to play. That, to me, was a part of the handicap.
All right. Well, then what do you bet? I don't know what you're betting on anymore. Maybe the Packers feel bad about Aaron Rodgers being out, and they're like, you know what? We'll sit 5 or 6 guys too, because it doesn't seem fair and it's kind of sad. But I don't know what. It's like a shell of a team that's not very good anyway. So I'm sorry, JJ, this is happening to you.
Well, first of all, that's dead wrong. The Packers are good, Sal. And to me, the interesting thing is we were really just in this very same position, except the Packers were on the road in Atlanta and gave Atlanta everything that they wanted. And the Packers had multiple opportunities to win that game, up by 2 scores in the fourth quarter. I like the Packers coming back home. It's the same lineup that they just had on the road against Atlanta, now home. And really what this is about to me is an opportunity to go against Derek Carr. Outside Derek Carr, out of a dome Derek Carr, on grass Derek Carr. Let's roll, baby.
Are y'all crazy? Like, Jenkins played last week. Like, y'all got to be crazy. Like, it's one thing to not have Bakhtiari in the lineup, but to not have Jenkins, that's a huge blow for their offensive line. And then we saw last week, A.J. Dillon, I mean, he's just slow and plodding. Like, this guy has no explosiveness. And they were really hurt by the loss of Aaron Jones last week. So this is not the same thing as last week. I just think this is a really, really tough spot for the Packers to be in. And when you look at the Packers last week, I know they had a lead. They had a 12-point lead going into the fourth quarter, but all of their points came on a couple of possessions. Besides that, they did nothing. They basically had 3 and outs. They only needed a field goal to win that game, and they couldn't pick up 1 first down. So what does that tell you about what this Packers team is right now? Now, I do think coming into the week, knowing that you're not going to have these guys, it allows you to scheme and it makes things a little bit easier. But I just think they're in a tough position. If anything, you're looking at this total. It went down from 42.5 to about 41. If you're going to play the Packers, and if you have to play the Packers, I would recommend teasing the Packers because we all know getting those 7 points in a low total game, it's more valuable.
Telling you, laying points with the New Orleans Saints on the road, buyer beware. That's all I'm going to say. Buyer beware. We're not jumping ship. Still rolling with the Green Bay Packers. All right, now it's time for props, boys. House, we're going to start with you, prop master. What catches your eye for week 3?
This is pretty simple and straightforward. I like the way that the Colts and Shane Steichen deployed Zach Moss in his first game of the season. He didn't play in week 1 because he had a arm injury, but he's back. And this is really an opportunity to grab a Colts running back to score with Anthony Richardson being on the sidelines. I think, Moss had all the running back carries last week, 18 carries. He is also on the field for all but 1 offensive snap. You can get Zach Moss as an anytime touchdown at plus 135. I just like the idea of plus odds for a guy who's going to be on the field the entire game and definitely going to get, if the Colts are able to get in the red zone and have an opportunity to get across the goal line, I like Zach Moss as the guy to do it.
Okay, Sal, with these props, sometimes it's a lot of fun to get a major roll of the dice here. You got a nice major roll of the dice for us?
I do. This is what I call a fun dumb bet, okay? And it's that a kick return, the opening kick return, will be returned for a touchdown in the early slot, in the early game. So what are there? 8 early games? Is that right? 15-1 odds FanDuel is giving you if the opening kick is returned for a touchdown. Now, I don't have a lot of data to support this. I think the last time this happened was in January with Raheem Hines against what was it, Buffalo against the Patriots, right? In January, that was the big Damar Hamlin game, the game after that terrible fiasco. So that was big, but 15-1. I feel like if you pound this enough times, it's going to collect on 15-1. And then you don't even have to watch the games the rest of the day because you got your 15-1, you got your kick return for a touchdown. And I'm even going to tell you, I'll tell you which game it's going to be. I won't tell you who's going to do it. It's going to be in that Colts-Ravens game. That's where the return will happen. And I will look like an extra genius at 15-1. Get that on FanDuel.
So, Sal, you're telling me we got to basically bet that every single week. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or just bet it this week and then collect your money. Yeah.
Well, we'll see if it hits. All right, Raheem. We took a major roll of the dice. I want to root for that one because anytime you could throw a prop down and get 15-1, that's a major hoot and holler type of moment. But what do we got for your prop of the day?
I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook over 29.5 rushing yards. This has been better from 25.5, and I still like it here. I project this at around 37. You look at the Jets. I expect them to take the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands for 2 reasons. Obviously, we have weather concerns. 15-mile-per-hour winds up to about 30 miles per hour. So they're not going to be doing a lot of passing. Also, you can have potentially showers and, just a very slippy condition on the field. So I'm not expecting the Jets to pass the ball a ton. And then in addition, they lost their left tackle. So the offensive line is really banged up. You look at the fact that Raheem Mostert had 18 carries for 121 yards last week. I expect the Jets to run the ball. Now, we know Breece Hall is the star of that team, but he's going to split carries because he's coming back from his injury. So look at the season. Breece Hall has 14 carries this season. Dalvin Cook, despite being Larry Holmes status Flavian sick, has 17 carries. So we're going to go with the over here. I think he should probably have around 37, 40 yards.
We're going to do a double shot, Raheem, of Dalvin Cook. Now, I'm not going to go in the yards department, but what I'm going to look to for Jets and Patriots is for Dalvin Cook to hit pay dirt, for Dalvin Cook to go and score a touchdown. You've seen it right there at plus 250 because to me, he is going to be the guy to go and get all those red zone goal line opportunities. And Breece Hall is on a pitch count. There's no denying that. He was not happy about the fact that he only got 4 touches in week 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to get more touches than that. But I just get the sense when we see the Jets with the football inside the 20-yard line, inside the 10-yard line, they are not going to have the trust and confidence in Zach Wilson to go and make those decisions. So you know what you do? You rely on someone that scored a good amount of touchdowns throughout the course of their career. I am taking Dalvin Cook anytime touchdown. I just have way too much liability on the Jets today. I don't know what to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, but another Jet Patriot play. I'm taking Dalvin Cook.
It's a good spot to be in.
250. Yeah. Oh, yeah, wonderful, wonderful spot. All right, guys, quickly, 30 seconds or less. Parting thought. Sal, what do you got?
A parting thought? Well, it's great being here with you guys. The day started off great when they announced that I would be performing halftime of the Super Bowl. And then just to be with you guys here, just as the icing on the cake. And I hope to go 3-0 with my best bets. And let's hit on this underdog. And good luck to everyone the rest of the way trying to figure out what the hell House is doing with his pup of the day or whatever our dog play is.
I'm still trying to figure it out. I still don't have answers. First of all, congratulations on the honor, by the way. You, Taylor Swift, Rihanna. No, Rihanna already did Super Bowl halftime. I'm losing track of my Super Bowl halftime performers. House, quickly, 30 seconds, parting thought.
Best bet of the day. That teaser I gave out, that's not an underdog play in any way, shape, or form. Grab the Buffalo Bills, tease them from 6.5 down to 6. Grab the Baltimore Ravens from wherever they are, 7.5 down to 1.5 or 8-2. There's your winner of the week because it's on the diametric opposite of my cockamamie, all wet underdog parlay. Just go make money, my friends.
Raheem, by the way, can we get like a translator or a dictionary or a thesaurus to help us out next week for House?
I hope so, but good luck to House in his cat bets. I'm gonna give you guys another bet. I like the Browns at -3. It moved off the 3.5. I just think this is a good spot to take them against the Titans team, which is probably gonna be the public underdog of the day. Browns defense, 25% success rate. So I'm rolling with the Browns as an extra bet.
Wow, going up against Mike Vrabel, who is Mr. Cash Tickets as an underdog. But it does seem a little too good to be true. I'm staying off the Titans. For Raheem Palmer, Cousin Sal, Joe House, John Jastremski signing off. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place, Ringer Wise guys. We'll be on the digital stream. Want to check that out? Let's cash a whole lot of tickets. Be good, everybody. Welcome back. It is the bonus show, the wrap-up show. I still haven't figured out what we're calling this here for Ringer Wise guys. We're now on all the digital streams. Good luck trying to keep track of all of them. But we have Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer, and John Jastremski. And now it's time for a new segment. And we thought of this because we needed an honorable mention. And who is an appropriate wise guy, Sal, to be the honorable mention? Who would it be, buddy?
Well, I always thought it was Donnie Brasco, who never really, he was a made man, right? If you remember the movie, but he was the one left behind. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. It's a great movie. Great flick if you can go see it.
So you're going with Donnie Brasco.
But there was a Maury, right?
That's
Maury
right. Because if you remember the Lufthansa heist
I blew that
Goodfellas, it's all right. You blow things, that's par for the course for you. That's like me 3-putting on the golf course. But Maury, who you remember, wanted his money, wanted to get paid, never got paid. Well, guess what? He gets paid here in the honorable mention section of the show.
Quit breaking our balls, Maury. Yeah.
Exactly, Maury. Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Let's get to our honorable mention of the week, which is Green Bay. Or excuse me, I'm getting the honorable mention wrong. So you're rubbing off on me already, Sal. It's Cincinnati and the Los Angeles Rams. And Raheem, this is a line that has plummeted quite a bit because of the uncertainty and the status of Joe Burrow going into Monday night. Cincinnati, look, they're a team that started off 0-2 last year. They beat the Jets. They turned their season around. They found their way into the AFC title game. Are you surprised, Raheem, that we're looking at the Bengals only as 2.5-point favorites?
I'm not surprised at all because Joe Burrow clearly wasn't right last week, and it appears that he might not play. But, we did see him on the practice field later on last week. If it were me, I'm going to be honest with you, I just think the best of the number is gone. This thing opened up at -6. I would just take a shot on Cincinnati laying the -2.5 just in case Joe Burrow does play, because if he does play, this line's going to shoot back up. So sometimes you got to, take a guessing game approach with the market and just hope you get the best of it. But I just think 2.5 is too far down. If Burrow gets ruled out, what does this close at a pick 'em or so? So I think if you grab Cincinnati now with the 2.5, maybe it goes back up and then you could shoot for a middle if you didn't grab the Rams earlier this week.
Yeah, I would say the very best scenario, the very best potential outcome is Burrow out there in the warm-ups and, the market responding to the possibility of him being out there, and that opportunity to jump on the Rams goes up. I personally would just like to play the Rams money line, because what I've seen thus far out of the Rams this year has been really impressive in terms of passing attack. And I'm not impressed at all with where the Bengals are in their secondary, especially last week against the Ravens. And, I don't know how it makes any sense at all for Joe Burrow with a calf injury. And that thing is so hard to overcome. The only way to get over it is with rest. How it makes any sense at all for them to put him out there. We're right on the brink of this being a lost season for the Bengals. They already have 2 losses inside their division. The most important thing is to protect the asset that you just paid $275 or $280 million. That's the long-term thinking that the Bengals should be deploying here. I wouldn't be messing around with Burrow unless he's 110% recovered. And so I'm just looking for an opportunity to play the Rams money line on Monday night.
Yeah, I think the Rams is a good bet right now. I think the Rams against Jake Browning should be a favorite, right? So if you can get +2.5, you're in dynamite shape. And the Rams against a gimpy Joe Burrow might be a good play too, even at 2.5. I get it. It's going to go to 6. If he plays, it'll go back to 6. But really, he's being carted from station to station at each practice. And I think House is right. I get that, the Bengals go 0-3. They're probably dead to rights. I think the Texans are the only 0-3 team in recent memory to make the playoffs, but doesn't look good for Joe Burrow and doesn't want to go against this revitalized Rams defense out of nowhere. I thought they were going to be in trouble. I thought this was going to be a lost season, but they play for Sean McVay and they still have studs on the defensive end. So I think the Rams +2.5, given this line, I think this is the way to go.
I actually have a question for you guys. So
go ahead.
Billy Walters, who's probably the greatest sports bettor of all time,
Yeah.
he said if you value something at 10,
buddy.
you're a buyer at 8 and you're a seller at 12. So at what point is there value on the Cincinnati Bengals? Because we have to remind the public, this line did open at Bengals -6 and we're all the way down to 2.5. And I just don't think long-term you're going to make a lot of money if you're getting the worst of it. So at what point do you say, look, I'm going to buy on the Bengals? Is there a price? Is it Bengals +3? Is it Bengals pick 'em? Because at some point, the Rams are not going to have any more value. So I'm just curious when that point is for you guys.
I'm buying now. And maybe it's because I think Joe Burrow is going to give it a go and he's going to play in this particular game. And I know it sounds super square. And this game easily, fellas, for what it's worth, could have found its way into the rat line conversation throughout the week. But I'm taking Cincinnati here. I know the Rams have looked really good in division games. I know their defense is terrific. Raheem, as far as that question for me, I'm on it right now. I'm about to add it. Give me Cincinnati at 2.5. When for you, Sal, would you think about a buy on Cincinnati, or is there no point for you?
When for me, it might be too late at this point, but when Burrow is dropped back to pass and has 2 touchdowns throwing, that's probably me. I'd have to take the live line to be convinced that he's all right.
It's a great point. I would play it. I mean, Dream said it. I would play it when the Bengals are getting 3 points. That's when I'd feel comfortable. This line wasn't necessarily a rat line because the most important player in the entire contest, we have no idea whether he's going to play or not. Right. And if he does play, what kind of shape he's going to be in. So we won't know until we're all the way up into it Monday night. Great time to order a giant pizza, sit down, and let the drama play out.
Ooh.
I'll be ordering that pizza in about an hour. I mean, you're waiting for tomorrow. I'm not waiting for that pizza. I'm getting it today. Brooklyn, the best. Staten Island, the best. Just throwing that out there. All right, anyway, next game on the honorable mentions is Jacksonville and Houston. Sal, I like this one. This actually almost found its way into the best bet conversation for me. I think Jacksonville is going to smoke the Texans today. Jacksonville coming off a loss. Jacksonville going to be ticked off. the Texans are just so woeful. They're so inexperienced. They have so much work to do as a franchise. Doesn't this reek of get-right spot for the Jaguars? Like, they should be in every tease parlay imaginable. I have them in a knockout. I love Jacksonville today.
I'm surprised you like them so much because they screwed you last week, JJ.
They
You
did.
had all the 1 o'clock games. You had a touchdown to be scored by every team competing in a 1 o'clock game. And Jacksonville at home against the Chiefs couldn't get it done. I don't know if it's the weather. What is it like? I mean, I don't, these games where it's like 100 degrees on the field, 110 on the field, you might as well throw them out. And I almost feel like you take some points. And by the way, CJ Stroud being a little undervalued in terms of offensive rookie of the year. I see him at 14-1. He's going to put up big numbers if he stays in there. He already has like over 600 combined. So yeah, maybe the Texans, and I'll get to it later. Maybe they're a cursed squad. And this is where Jacksonville gets right after that loss to the Chiefs. But no, I'm not sidestepping the Texans and the points just yet.
Yeah, I agree with Sal here. I don't like laying all those points in an in-division game. And the thing with Houston has been, their serial injuries through the first couple weeks on the offensive line. It does seem like Laramie Tunsil is coming back. I've been extremely under-impressed and underwhelmed by the Jacksonville offense, and particularly Trevor Lawrence, who had multiple opportunities on that stage last week against the Chiefs to put the Jags back into the game, and he just missed throws. He just missed throws in the red zone. So I don't know. This it feels to me like a stay away more than anything. But if I was going to play a side, I'd be on Houston.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning with Sal and House on this just because I'm just not high on this Jaguars team at all. The offense has just been underwhelming. Just the biggest problem with Houston is that, I mean, their entire team is hurt, and they continue to have injuries after injuries every single week. Laramie Tunsil was still out, so this is probably like a rat line right here.
You guys not giving me the endorsement on Jacksonville. Now I'm glad it was an honorable mention. It didn't make its way onto the show. Interesting. All right. I want to hit on a couple of late line moves. Let's start with this one. Raheem, Bills down to 5.5 against the Commanders. You surprised?
I am surprised at this one, and it seems like the Sharps really love Washington on this. I think House you have a better idea on this game than me because I actually don't understand it, and I would actually recommend coming back on the Bills at -5 because I think that's a great buy point for the Bills. I just think the Commanders, who have they beat? They beat the Arizona Cardinals, who they struggled to beat. They were down 21-3 against the Broncos. I actually think if you take the Bills first half -2.5, and I think you take them full game -5, I think at worst you'll get a split, but I think you'll hit both of them. I think, obviously there's some weather concerns out there, but it doesn't seem like the weather's as bad as they thought it would be. I initially liked the over, and I bought out of it when I heard about the weather, but I think you got to take Buffalo here.
One thing, Sal, about the Bills, when they win, they smoke you. I feel like Buffalo is one of those teams, if the game is close, they'll find a way to screw it up. But if you're playing a lot of Bills alternate spreads, last week against the Raiders, perfect example, they don't win close games. They win and they win going away. So to me, if they beat House's Commanders today, I'd take a -9.5. I think they win a game by double digits easy.
Yeah, that's not bad. Of course, I'm going the other way, which Raheem hates. I'm going to tease through the 0 probably and take Buffalo just because I need them to win. But yeah, you're right. Look, I mean, what were they last week? Like we all like, oh, are they frauds, Buffalo? And then they go down 7-0 to the Raiders. And I think the Raiders even had the ball driving up 7-0. And then it was just a whitewash, right? And maybe it's because it's home and they got their skis to, but really it's Cook at like 136 yards rushing. Like that's a different ball club when you don't have to rely on Josh Allen to make every single play, right? So when they're running the ball like they did last week, that's the Buffalo Bills that you feel confident betting on. Washington, I still can't make heads or tails of that team. I really don't know what to think. That Arizona win seems like a nothing win now. I'm sorry, House. And then that big comeback win against Denver. Maybe they're just emotionally drained after that, and it's a little bit of a hangover game. So I do like the Bills in this spot.
Well, I will say in response to that hangover point that Ron Rivera in his career often upset win is 25-9 against the spread, but I can't get there with this Washington team at less than 6 with Buffalo. I think this is a different just a different kind of class of team that Washington is up against. And, the one of the things that we were keeping an eye on was whether Micah Hyde and Leonard Floyd were going to be playing on that Buffalo defense. They're both playing. This game is a sellout here in DC, and it was a sellout pretty early. I think a lot of that is because there's a ton of Buffalo people down here in the DMV, so I think it could be a 50-50 split in terms of the fan base. But I don't like the idea of doing anything with the C words in this spot.
All right, I got two other lines I want to hit you guys on that have moved a little bit here. House, this is right up your alley. Seattle's down to 4.5, pal.
It's a nonsense game. It's a stay away game. I wouldn't do anything with that Seattle Carolina game except for bet on Carolina. The line is finally like taking note of the fact that Andy Dalton is a much better quarterback proposition for Carolina than Bryce Young. If it had dropped down to 4.5 earlier in the week, I might have considered it, but at this stage, it's a stay away.
Raheem, is there still value with Carolina at 4.5, or did I miss the boat?
I think there's still value at 4.5. I think there's some 5s out there in the market as well. I think I'm seeing 5 at FanDuel right now. So I would take it at 4.5. I think this line should probably be 3 when you consider all Seattle's injuries right now. And then the fact that there's really no downgrade to Andy Dalton is probably an upgrade here. And I just think Carolina still has a solid defense. They're going to be able to force some pressure on Geno Smith, and I think they might have a good chance of winning this game outright, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed here because I was going to be all over Seattle if it was Bryce Young. And nothing against Bryce Young. It's the same analysis I had with the Colts. Gardner Minshew is better right now than Anthony Richardson, but that's going to change probably in a month or maybe less. Same here. Bryce Young will be better than Andy Dalton, but the rookie quarterback on the road in one of the toughest places to play in Seattle, that was a recipe for disaster. But now Andy Dalton with a full week of practice kind of screws things up for that. And House brought it up. Like maybe there's some, maybe there's some revenge to be served here by Seattle. Carolina went in there and whooped them last year. So I think it's a little bit of a stay away, especially where we are now with the line being 5.
All right, I got one last line move I want to hit on. Sal, this is a game that you said avoid. Rat. Now the Chargers back to 1-point favorites against the Vikings. Your thoughts?
Oh, wow. Wow, sharp money coming in on the Chargers. Doesn't seem so sharp with all that happens with them. Like, it's so weird because I say I'll never take the Chargers as a favorite, but if they're a 1-point favorite, am I sticking to that? I mean, they really just have to win the game. Although, couldn't you see a 24-23 type game in there? It's still my stay away. I picked the Vikings to win the NFC North. That's probably a loser. I picked the Chargers to not make the playoffs. That's looking okay about now. But when these two square up, I have no idea what to think. It's still a stay away in my book.
All right, boys, we're going to debut something here in the honorable mentions, the post show, the after show, whatever the hell we're calling it, here on the digital platforms, the Zillion. House, the segment is called It's Not Your Fault. So I'm going to let you take the side of maybe someone who's beleaguered, maybe it's someone who's down and out, maybe it's Bill Simmons. I don't know, because his Patriots 0-2. Who are we going to look at, Mr. Amigo, as our candidate for this week's It's Not Your Fault?
I just want to read off some stats. I'm going to do some stats through the first couple games of the season, and I want to see if you can name the quarterback. You guys can name him, but I want to see if the gambling public can circle in on this. This guy's, he's 4th in passer rating. He's 3rd in touchdowns. He's 10th in yards per attempt. Through 2 games, the pace that he's on would have him throwing 43 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, over 4,000 yards, over 4,100 yards, with a quarterback rating of 109. I'm talking about Hustle Bustle Russell, Sal's guy, Russell Wilson. The issue with the Denver Broncos is not the offense. It's not your fault, Russell. He is trying to do what Sean Payton is asking of him, and they have shown some things, especially over the top, that we see that seemed completely out of the question for Russell Wilson and this Denver Broncos offense just last year. The problem last year was they couldn't score. the issue this year is they can't score enough to overcome the fetid and deplorable Vance Joseph defense that the Denver Broncos are throwing out there. They had a 21-3 lead halfway through the second quarter against the Washington Seawards at home and then gave up 32 points. Absolutely unacceptable. The issue in Denver is not the guy that they spent all that money and draft picks bringing in. The issue is the defense. I like Russell Wilson here. I know that Sean Payton and Russell might be quietly butting heads, but the thing to get for Denver, if they have any hope whatsoever, they better get that defense fixed up.
No doubt. And listen, Russell Wilson has put up numbers first 2 weeks. There's no denying that. And a lot of you guys are backing Russell Wilson in this particular spot against my Dolphins. Right now, that line is at 6 over at FanDuel. Okay, Raheem, whose fault are we avoiding?
Bryce Young. And the big reason why is because we all know they traded DJ Moore in the offseason. They had to trade up to get him. A lot of people have said, oh, Bryce Young, his frame is too little. He's not going to be able to survive the NFL. Well, I don't think he's a bust. I think he's going to be fine, but they have to put some pieces around him. When you look at who's around him, DJ Shark, you look at Adam Thielen. Like, none of these guys can consistently get separation. And you look at the offensive line. The offensive line is a complete mess. And when you look at who's coaching him, Frank Reich, this is a guy who, I mean, he has the reputation of being a quarterback whisperer. What has he done with quarterbacks recently? He hasn't done anything. And they have a guy in Thomas Brown, who is their offensive coordinator, who a lot of people in the analytics and, you know, the football community, they feel like he's a genius. He should be the guy who's calling plays right now. So everything around Bryce Young is set up for him to fail. And it makes you think, back in the day, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago in the NFL, these quarterbacks used to sit down, and they used to sit down and learn from a veteran quarterback. Why is Bryce Young out there? It just doesn't make any sense to me if you're going to put him out there to fail. It would almost make sense. You look at how well Jordan Love is performing. Jordan Love he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years. If you're not going to have a good offensive line, you're not going to have receivers, just let Bryce Young sit for a year or two until you can put guys around him to allow him to be put in a position to succeed.
See, I get that. I think there's a lot of truth in that. Here's the problem, though, Sal. You know this. That rookie wage scale, you want to get these quarterbacks out there as soon as possible. Now, you don't want to stunt their growth. You don't want to put them in a position where there are like those long-term lingering effects. But the teams that have done it best recently, you've seen it with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. You've seen it with Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. You go back to Russell Wilson, his early days with the Seattle Seahawks. In a perfect world, now maybe Bryce Young is not in that perfect world, so I feel sorry for the guy. But that's why these teams are getting these rookie quarterbacks out there, because they want to take advantage of that with the salary cap.
But the thing is, you just mentioned 3 guys who all had good teams. The Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, the Bengals didn't. Hold on a second. The other 2, you're right. The Bengals didn't. The Bengals team stunk, and all of a sudden they became good. Let's be fair. They weren't.
That's fair, but I mean, they still had Jamar Chase.
The following year.
Yeah, sure. The following year. But I mean, you look at these guys, like the Eagles were a solid team. Look at Patrick Mahomes. He sat for nearly a year. Lamar Jackson sat for 6 games, and they had structure within the organization. If you ask me, Frank Reich isn't providing any structure. If you ask me, Frank Reich is a downgrade from what we saw from Steve Wilkes.
Well, I like it because Joe House is nodding his head because he hates Frank Reich. Oh, no, wait, he loves Frank Reich. Wait, I don't know. It depends. House, what is it this morning?
I don't know. What is it?
That's for Simmons, by the way. House, which is it on Frank Reich? I'm not sure.
Well, if you look over the course of his career, he's a winning coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
And this idea of whether or not he's a quarterback whisperer, who the hell knows? Look at the bums that he had the last several years. He was not the general manager of the Colts. He didn't say, please go get me Matt Ryan. Please go get me Carson Wentz. He tried to save Carson Wentz's career, for Christ's sakes, and the Colts were on the brink of making the playoffs. The defense let them down in week 18 against Jacksonville a couple years ago, that Colts team. And the Colts are a disaster anyway. They all have the worst owner in the NFL. Congratulations to them. But look, I'm not here to defend Frank Reich. The point that Dream made is the right point, which is if you want this kid to truly have an opportunity to be successful, you got to give him some time on the sidelines. You got to have a veteran quarterback. They've already announced that he's probably out for week 4. I honestly think they're trying to protect him. They watched him the first 2 weeks. They're like, what's the point in putting him out there and having him get killed with absolutely no skill whatsoever at any of the skill positions, except for maybe at running back? But does it help him, his development, to be handing the ball off and throwing the pitch and throwing screens behind the line of scrimmage? I would say no. Let Dalton do that. He knows how to do it.
I don't think there's a blanket statement you can make for rookie quarterbacks and when they should be put in and how long they should be held out. Because Raheem, you're right. Like Jalen Hurts was put in and Burrow, and it worked for those guys. But look at sometimes you whiff on a draft pick. Trey Lance wasn't ready, and if you look at the Titans, Malik Willis and Will Levis are not ready. So what do? You put them in automatically because the fans want to see them there. So I think there's a case to be made either way. Plus, how much of these guys playing in the preseason? So I'm not sure which way to go there. But I do have a. It's not your fault, guys. Should I start with mine here?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's DeMeco Ryans. It's not your fault. And I know I could tell already you're going to end up 4-13 with this Texans team, and you're going to get blamed because you had CJ Stroud and you had Will Anderson off the bat and Nathaniel Dell, but you were set up to fail because you'll likely get canned after the season, become the 3rd straight one and done. That's just how it is in Houston. That's how this clown organization does things. The team is cursed by the Bill O'Brien. Oh, no, you didn't. Hang in there, DeMeco Ryans. A better gig awaits you. It's not in Houston. Sorry in advance.
Can't fault DeMeco Ryans yet. Now, maybe in a year and a half, we'll be singing a different tune, Sal. But
I hope he lasts. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that situation is as bad as can be. Got to give the guy a chance. Now, the guys I'm going to bring up, fellas, technically right now they've seen nothing but prosperity in their first 2 weeks together. But the reason I'm putting Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles in the category of it's not your fault, hear me out on this. It's not necessarily the way you guys are doing it. It's more about their overall career arcs and career narratives. You think about Todd Bowles, and I killed him for years when he coached the New York Jets. He's not any good. He's a defensive coordinator. He doesn't have what it takes to go and be a successful NFL head coach. Maybe I'm going to be reconsidering that stance and that take by the end of the year. I don't know if that's definitive, but I am impressed and I am surprised that all of a sudden a guy that I was laying a lot of blame on about, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, now has a team that is a surprise 2-0. And a guy who's gotten a lot of fault and has taken a lot of heat is Baker Mayfield. And let's be honest, with the way Deshaun Watson has played with the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield's outplayed him the last year and a half. I know that's not saying much with Deshaun Watson, but it does show you that maybe there is some revitalization for two guys that were dumped on quite a bit, House. I mean, we did a whole lot of dumping on Baker Mayfield. We did a whole lot of dumping on Todd Bowles. Now, all of a sudden, these guys maybe a little bit of a new lease on life.
I guess so. I got yelled at for messing up the underdog segment. This feels a little funny for me, but I'm going to roll with you, JJ.
Well,
I'm going to roll with you.
I feel like every week I'm going to have a problem with this because there's only so many people that we can pin on these dog, what type teams. I mean,
yeah, but this is the
Panthers.
first week. You already have a problem with it. Like I didn't know it was possible to be more confused by a pick than Joe House's underdogs. And now JJ's coming in here and say, "Hey, Tampa Bay, you're 2-0. It's not your fault." What?
Well, I'm saying over the course
I think it is
of
their
the
fault.
Last year, Baker Mayfield, Todd Bowles, take a bow. That's
All
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I'm glad for Baker to finally have. I mean, this has to be the best receiver tandem he's ever had in his entire career, right? Like that's not really going too far out on a limb. But the Buccaneers, story is yet to be written. I mean, it is impressive for them to go into Minnesota and take advantage of the Vikings self-imploding 4 turnovers or whatever it was, the fumbles at center. And they won the game, but they were completely outclassed, outyarded. And then they held serve at home against arguably the worst team in football, the Chicago Bears. So congratulations. Good job. You took advantage of what was staring you in the face. The big question mark with Tampa was, what are they trying to do? It's the same sort of question we had with the Rams this year. What is their overall game plan? How are they going to attack this season. Now I think with Tampa looking at that NFC South and say, hey, wait a minute, don't count us out. We're right there with Atlanta and right there with the Saints. Maybe they're just going to go for it. They still have talent on both sides of the ball, but it really will come down to Baker and JJ. It will be his fault if they end up falling short.
Well, it'll probably be the fault of one of those two. And all of a sudden, maybe in a few weeks, we're back to dumping on Todd Bowles and we're back to dumping on Baker Mayfield. We shall see. I wanted to hit you guys on this because we have two Cowboy fans that are sitting with us. It's way too early with the MVP conversation. We all understand that it's week 3. These odds are going to shift 10 zillion more times between now and the end of the year. And in general, Raheem, the history of the award, especially over the last 20 years, tells us a quarterback is going to win it. That said, do you think that there's possible value in getting on board with Micah Parsons, who is the best defensive player in football? He is a freak. He's dominating games left and right. The Cowboys have the best record in the NFC. He's doing his thing defensively. Is it worth taking a flyer on Micah to go win MVP this year?
It's not. I mean, we just know the history of the award too much. I think if you're going to do anything, you definitely take him for Defensive Player of the Year, but no one's going to vote for him to win MVP unless you see, week 1, you had 12 of those games go under. Unless nobody is scoring points the whole year, I just don't see it happening. So I can't recommend it, honestly.
Sal, would you take a flyer?
I would because I'm dumb, but and it's funny, it hasn't moved for all the Micah Parsons, Lawrence Taylor talk. It hasn't moved from 60-1 in the last 10 days. To give you a little perspective, and you're right, quarterbacks win this award. Dak Prescott 16-1, and we've barely seen him drop back to throw a pass, right? So Micah 60-1, Dak 16-1. He would have to eclipse Lawrence Taylor, who was the last defender to win this award, I think, in 87. And really, I'm trying to think, like Bosa, obviously Donald, they've had amazing numbers. I don't know. How many sacks would he have to have, Raheem? 25 to win this award? Because we've seen guys get close to 20. And when it comes down to votes, they're like 5th and 6th on the ledger there. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of year he'd have to put together, but it's fun to get Giants fans pissed off by comparing him to Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, J.J. Watt had 20.5 sacks.
Yeah.
Like 39 tackles for loss, 43 QB hits. I mean, he was Defensive Player of the Year, but, he didn't come close to sniffing MVP. So there's no chance that Michael wins it.
But it is the Cowboys, though.
Yeah.
I do think that narrative can be drummed up a little bit more with a guy who's playing for Dallas House as opposed to somebody who's playing for the LA Rams or the Houston Texans. No disrespect. And Dak's not winning the award. We all know that. We all understand it. If it's a year where they're like, hey, we don't want to give it to a quarterback, maybe there's Mahomes fatigue. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to give it to Tua. Too much credit to Tyreek Hill. Just go through the list of guy after guy after guy. At that number, House, I might take a lottery ticket on that one. I really might.
Here's the thing. On Tuesdays, I find myself somewhat depressed. It's very quiet. Maybe we can talk the Podfather into letting us have Tuesday shows, because here's what I did on Tuesday, fellas. I jumped into the NFL MVP market, and not only did I bet on Dak Prescott, I got him at 15-1, but I put something on Micah Parsons at 60-1 because every A block on every gosh darn NFL show on Monday was is Micah the second coming of LT? All you had to do was turn on any one of the sports TV channels. It's like, you know what? At that price, I'm gonna dabble. Now I had too much time on my hands, clearly. So maybe we need a wise guys show on Tuesdays, like early look ahead lives or something, just to take my focus away from jumping into these markets. But if Dallas finishes 14-3 and that defense is lights out the reason, and Micah gets the 22 sacks or whatever, plus a couple picks or scooping score,
especially without Diggs now. Yep,
you know it, cuz why not a little bit? I don't recommend it. Nobody go spend their hard-earned money on this, but I'm in that market. I'm there already.
The problem is with voter fatigue. There's enough guys to give it to. Like you have Like, Tua, if he makes it to the finish line, is going to have better numbers than anybody. You would give it to him. There's always Patrick Mahomes, who gets, the voters love him, and every reason they should. And I feel like voters also feel like they owe Jalen Hurts if he's around there at 10-1. So there's plenty of other options. Unfortunately, if you're holding a Micah Parsons ticket, I'm just surprised the line hasn't moved from 60-1.
All right, boys. That's going to do it for a bonus time on Ringer Wise Guys. For Sal, for House, for Raheem, JJ signing off. Want to thank Jack and the boys back in the shop for making us look as good as can be. I mean, I can't say they're making us look really good. Maybe Raheem. The rest of us, debatable. We'll be back next week. Cash a bunch of tickets. We out. Be good, everybody.